Greetings from the set of Metro and More at Metropolitan Community College, serving more than 50,000 students with over 120 programs at our 8 locations in the daytime, evening, weekends, or online. And I'm your host, Kent Pavelka. Welcome again to Metro and More of what you need to know about Metropolitan Community College. As you just saw, we're going to be discussing creating pathways for student engagement and success at Metropolitan Community College with Ingrid Berlin, back on the program, the Dean of Enrollment Services at the college, and James Cloyd, Dean of Technology and Learning Support. Correct titles, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Which leads me into saying hello again to both of you. It's
Yes.
good to have you back on the show.
Hello.
Good to be back.
It's been a while. Maybe we can start by you guys reiterating a little bit about what you do in your current roles at the college. Ingrid?
Okay, as Dean of Enrollment Services, I oversee the financial aid area, the contact center, records department, and recruitment.
And you've been at the college how long now?
A little over 6 years.
6 years.
Yes. And
And-
prior to that, I was also working in education, have been all but 1 year since I graduated from college, so it was.
Did you start here at Metropolitan Community College in the same role you have now?
I did not. I was a dean of the Sarpy Center, and actually the Sarpy County Centers, because it included the Offutt Air Force Base, and then of Elkhorn campus
Very
before
good.
I came over here.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
James, tell us a little bit about your career here at the college.
I started off as an academic advisor back in 2001 at the Sarpy Center. Was there for a few years, became the director of student services, was there for a couple of years, then became the executive director of our Applied Technology Center, and was there for about 4.5 years, and then transitioned into the dean of the Fort Omaha campus, was in that position for just a little over a year. And then in April, we had a little bit of reorganization with student affairs, and I became the dean of technology and learning support.
Very good. We want to talk in specific about creating pathways for student engagement and success. Give us a little bit of overview about the depth and breadth of what's available at the college you were explaining.
Well, as you mentioned, 150 programs or more, and we have anything from a short certificate. We have some paths in between achieving a full associate's degree, so you can
Which
get
is 2 years,
That's
right?
right.
Right.
So there may be a short program which could be 18 to 24 credits, and then the certificate program that may be a year to complete or a little bit more, and then all the way up to the associate's degree. And then of course we have all the non-credit options too. So we have about anything someone would want to be able to get into a job quickly, and then prepare for what they may need to do beyond that.
And I would just add, and for students who maybe are working or they have other commitments, we also have online course offerings which allow students maybe take 1 or 2 classes at their convenience, so they can do the homework late at night, early in the morning, however it works best for them.
And probably we should mention too, classes, even if you aren't motivated toward a certificate or any kind of employment goal, right?
Correct.
Just-
You can
just
take a class.
self-improvement.
That's right. You can just do any type of class you want. You should be able to enroll in and just take them as you can go.
The better question might be, what don't you offer?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
James mentioned the online program, and I guess that's nice segue into also available as hybrid, which would be you still get that face-to-face interaction with the faculty member, but the rest is done online. So sometimes that's a really good fit for someone who doesn't feel completely comfortable offering it on taking a complete class online.
Where's the best way for someone to educate themselves on all the options at the college?
I'd say go to the website. Yes.
Yeah, mccneb.edu.
That's correct.
Right.
And then there are some options too that are rather new, where they can see more about if they are looking to become a student, or to see a little bit more about what steps they would need to take to do that, or just to investigate what programs we have. That would be on our future student page. And once they've become a student and are enrolled in the program, or even before, they can go on to the next website, which is the academic advising website, correct?
Yes, they can look at the academic advising website. They can actually come in and meet with someone as well too. A lot of times, students just want to kind of find out more information as they're exploring, and that allows us to ask, the appropriate questions. You want to be a nurse? Well, why do you want to be a nurse? have you thought about, X, Y, and Z? And just being able to have that conversation. Sometimes we can help students and identify maybe some barriers that they haven't thought about. Oh yeah, I need to have daycare at this time, or maybe I need to worry about how I'm going to build in time to get my homework done. And so then we can work with students to develop a plan that's going to work for them to allow them to be successful and take care of the other commitments that they have in life.
So our purpose here is to discuss pathways for student engagement and success. Is this something that's kind of new in terms of a focus by the college for the student?
I would say so. I think we've always, it's inherent in the college to try to make sure students are successful and they get into the program they want, but a lot of that, as we grew quickly, they were maybe needing to determine a little more than we felt like they should on their own. Many of our students come in as first generation student and don't know exactly even what questions to ask. So we tried to make the path a little clearer, stepping in from the very first time they get on the website to also completing, going to the Apply Now and completing an application. We collect some information on that, and then we know a little bit more what kind of programs are they interested in, what more demographic information, and we can help set them on the right path.
I would agree with that, and I would say that we're working to be more intentional on helping students celebrate. If you decide to come to MCC for one class, or if you decide to come for 6 courses for a certificate, or 2 years, we need to celebrate those milestones and make sure that you're on track. And so by meeting and engaging with the right folks here at the college, we can also make sure that not only are you on track for your program of study, but it also matches what your career goal is.
So what is the what's the routine? I mean, what happens what do you do for students from the beginning on?
Depending on how they come in, they may meet with someone outside of the college and say they're interested in Metro, or they may go to the website and put an inquiry in. They may go to the website and just complete and apply now. The point is they all come to the same place to get started, so that sets them into a communication cycle where we're telling them the next steps based on what they were asking.
So you get that initial information from a student, and then what happens? What's the first thing that happens?
Then they get a follow-up phone call. We have someone contact them and let them know we've received their information, wanted to let them know who they could contact if they had questions, if we happen to miss them, or to give them a little bit more information if we connect with them. And then there's an email and more phone calls, communication paths, so the student feels like they're engaging.
I would agree. And the enhancement of using technology, even when those students are setting those appointments, the ability for the student to get a 24-hour notification via text message or via email, it once again allows that student to keep that commitment and stay on track.
What are some of the obstacles that I won't say average student, because I don't know if there is an average student at MCC, but what are some of the obstacles that MCC students face that you're trying to sidestep through these processes?
I think we find, a good number of students come into Metro and don't know what they want to major in. They aren't sure what they want to do for a career. So we can identify those students, and that's when they meet with an advisor, those are the types of things they can sort out, do some career assessments, help find what's a good fit for them for both the program and how that would lead them into their career. So that's one.
Yeah, that's a great example. The other one I would say is sometimes students just learning how to navigate college. Maybe they're a first generation or it's their first time attending college. And so helping them understand that there's available resources for them that are entirely free. If they need tutoring assistance, if they need support with computer technology and things like that, all of those things are available for students.
This is just a more proactive approach by the college.
Right.
To engage with a student initially, right? I mean,
right.
What were you finding that students were kind of floundering a little bit in terms of what they were doing at Metro, or what was?
Yes, I think over the years we tried to make it as simple as it could be by allowing students to come through any way they worked for them. Maybe it's stopping by a campus, maybe it's making a phone call, maybe it's knowing someone who worked here, and so they weren't receiving as consistent of information and as thorough as information on a regular basis. I think people were helping as much as they could, but there wasn't a coordinated effort. Mm-hmm. We really worked together enrollment services and student services to make that more of a continuum. So they know at the point that we're done with them getting started, I say they're kind of teed up for student services to say, okay, now we're here for you through the duration of whatever your educational goal is. So I think it's a little just more coordinated and more streamlined on what we're doing. Same thing with financial aid, which can also be one of the barriers you were asking about.
Sure. Is it working? I mean, is it producing students that are more successful?
It is. We have seen just with a test group, I guess you could call, of about 150 students who are given more intentional interventions, more intentional advising and advocating for them around the college, making sure that they're getting what they need. The retention level is much, much higher, significantly higher than it would be for a student who's trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, no.
That would be probably the most obvious measuring stick, was retention, right?
Absolutely.
So students without this coordinated effort probably weren't sticking it out, I guess.
That's right.
as much
And there's
as they
students who come in with different levels of needs. Maybe students who have a little more, will start more developmental level, have different needs than someone who's coming in and they're valedictorian of their class and they know what they want to do and they either want to finish here and move on or just finish here. They maybe had several generations of family who attended college in the past versus no one ever attending college in the past. So it's really individualized.
And you know, as we talk about engagement and success, that engagement starts with the very first interaction that we have with the student, and it continues on. About a year ago, we implemented Welcome Week, where we actually have faculty members, other staff members. They will actually be available during the first week of the quarter, of each quarter, to greet students. And you don't realize you make an impact until a student comes back and says, thank you. And we had a situation where the student came back and said, I ran into an issue, a medical issue. I thought about stopping out, but I remember on the first day, that employee said, welcome to college. And right then and there, I knew I was a college student. And so when you hear those things and students come back and tell you that how impactful it was, we have to engage our students and connect with them.
Well, let's talk about some of the services that are available and the things you use for the purpose of engaging students and making them more successful. You talked about Welcome Week, and you talked a little bit about financial aid.
Yes.
What's available?
We have Title IV funding for students. Most students can qualify for some type of financial aid, if not all. There are very few reasons why you would not qualify. And you can get them for taking as few as 24 credits. A program as few as 24 credits, you can qualify for financial aid. We, in the last 8 months, implemented something called self-service. So students would have a problem getting the information when they needed it, to know that they had completed their file as they should, or when they were going to get their refund, or how much they were eligible for. That now is available on self-service. So just going into our MCC portal, the My Way, they can get on self-service and see exactly where they are with their financial aid progress. It's been a great addition.
Do you feel like all Metropolitan Community College students understand that financial aid is out there and available?
We hope so. We know they do more than they ever did, because we're offering more financial aid than we ever have in the past. We've also enhanced our scholarship program, so we have really identified many different pockets of students who may need a little assistance or may fall through the cracks of getting so much grant money. So we are identifying them and offering them some different types of assistance through state aid or other funding.
And you talk about, do students know? What do they know? What don't they know? We implemented a new student orientation, and right now it's online, but it's really designed to help students and help them learn how to navigate through Metro, and basically just exposing them to information they should know up front, as opposed to finding out later, or maybe finding out when there's a bump in the road. And that online orientation is actually free. Students can log on, they can complete different modules, and when they get done, they actually get a certificate of completion.
What is so important about new student orientation? I mean, what is it that they weren't getting but prior to implementing this?
I would say the biggest difference is we were doing our orientation one-on-one. You know, as they would come in and meet with someone, we were trying to give them everything they needed to know. Well, sometimes that's information overload for a student, especially in 45 minutes. But when the orientation, it's self-paced. And so when they register for their first class, they can you know, do 30 minutes, they can log out, go cook dinner, or do whatever they need to do. They can log back in and complete it at their own pace. But more importantly, once they've completed it, they can go back and revisit it anytime they want to. It covers things like financial aid. It talks about our student resource services, and just information that students need to get off to a good start.
I know there's a ton of things you can talk about. Another thing that you offer is student table talk, right? What is that?
Yes, Ingrid has actually been a guest at Student Table Talk. We implemented that about a year ago, and it was just basically an opportunity for student services to connect with the students, but then invite guests from other areas of the college. And so we've actually had financial aid come, we've had the MCC police chief, we've had the TRIO program. But what it does, it gives us an opportunity to hear firsthand what we're doing well here at MCC, and hey, here's some things that we didn't understand as students, or here's some issues or some concerns we've had. But more importantly, what I like about the Student Table Talk is the feedback that students give other students. You know, when you have that student who's been here 2 years or near graduation, they're saying, oh yeah, I had that problem early on, and this is how I resolved the issue, or hey, you should, you know, maybe talk to such and such. That's impactful when you got students giving, you know, good, healthy feedback to other students.
Encouraging communication across the board, whether it's student to student or staff to student or staff to staff with our own groups, is making sure that there's good communication going, and it's all with the idea of making it better for the student.
Where does this take place, the table talk?
Well, at the Fort Omaha campus, it takes place in the Commons. You know, it's a ready-made audience. Students are, you know, coming in between classes for lunch and things like that. You know, we try to make it attractive and appealing by, you know, having popcorn available, sometimes other healthy, you know, snacks, and sometimes not so healthy.
That's probably more inviting than healthy, right?
Sometimes.
Talk a little bit about the difference with a pathway for a student that's trying to get a degree, the 2-year degree, versus a pathway for someone taking how did you define it?
A short certificate.
Yeah, a short
or, yeah.
certificate.
Actually, they're not a lot different, and they still need to know what steps they need to take, how that's going to look. James mentioned the educational planning. They'd like to know laid out, here's what I have to take to hit that first level. Like James said, the small celebrations, you know, that's an achievement. And a lot of times with that first certificate, you're able to qualify to do something that you weren't 9-10 months earlier. So that would be, you know, laying out the educational plan for the first year certificate versus a whole associate's degree would just be a longer amount of time, but specifically tailoring it to what the student wants to get out of the program.
So it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of what the goal is. What do you do with students that say, I just don't know what I want to do at all?
Well, there's a couple options, you know, and when you look at that,
They're there.
yeah, you know, you look at that certificate, sometimes that's the first entry path to employment. You know, in certain of the trade areas, if you complete 6 classes, you now have that certificate where you can actually start working part-time while you're continuing in that trade or in that program. Sometimes it gives you an opportunity to recognize that I'm going to major in accounting, but I want to earn a certificate also in entrepreneurship or something else, basically to enhance your skills. And I think that's one of the advantages of folks, that they may sometimes earn that certificate and realize that's all I originally was had on my wish list, but now I've decided I want to continue on, I want more. And that could be for the student who has no degree, or it could be a student who already has a degree, an associate or a bachelor's coming back for those things.
Yeah, I was going to mention, we have students who come back to add on, maybe they're re-careering, and it could be as little as getting certified to have an insurance agency, or they may want to be a certified financial planner. Those are very short programs, and they maybe already have their bachelor's degree. Another one would be real estate. They can sell real estate. We have some really great short intensive programs where they can finish in 2 or 3 months.
So do you, for the student, like I said, that comes in and says, I need help just identifying what maybe my options are. I don't know what I want to do. How do you direct them? How do you counsel them?
There's a couple of things. This fall, we actually reorganized our academic advisors. And so we went from having academic advisors assigned to students by campus to having them assigned by the student's area of interest. So we basically have academic advisors for our general studies undecided students. We have advisors for our transfer students. We have advisors for program embedded programs of study, and then as well as our, we call it multi-programs, you know, like your info courses that are offered everywhere. But by connecting that undecided student with an advisor that is geared towards working with the undecided student, it allows that advisor to work one-on-one with that student or in a group setting to prescribe assessments, to do a little career exploration. Sometimes that may all happen in the advising office, or sometimes we may refer them on to career services for some additional exploration. Sometimes it may be as simple as a student realizes or recognizes that they should be in allied health, but they don't know if they want to be a nurse or if they want to be a dental assistant. And so through that self-discovery and some of the assessments, we can help them narrow down the path.
I've got a million things I can ask you here, and we eventually run out of time. So I want you to jump in here and share what you think is most important that our prospective students or current students who are watching understand about what we're trying to accomplish with these pathways to engagement and success.
I think that what the goal was when we set to intentionally serve the students in a different way was to serve each student individually, even though we're dealing with the masses. We have 15,000 new students applying every year, and that's before this was fully implemented.
How do you do
so
that?
we have to, there's a lot of thought put into it and a lot of workflows, and if this then this and this, they need to hear from this person or they need to get this communication. So it's just been intentional about it and individualizing it, and the students have noticed. It's gone, the service level has improved, and we've really, I think, they've felt more supported and more that they're doing, they know what they're getting into and why they're doing it, and it's not just hoping they're hitting the right thing. James, did you have more to add to that?
You know, I think you're right on point about that, and I think the other thing that we try to recognize is that we know that students don't know it all, and so we have to give them opportunities to experience it. We have to kind of make sure that they have a path. It's kind of like, you know, I've seen my parents, you know, when I was younger, I watched them drive the car, you know, but I didn't know how to drive the car until they let me sit behind the wheel and coach me. And what we're more intentional about is allowing students the opportunity to be coached by our professionals. And if you get off track, that's life. But what's more important is that you have a coach there to get you back on track. If you have to stop out for a little bit, sometimes those things happen. But having a coach and having the records and the things that we're doing with technology right now, that we can holistically serve the student, and not the student doesn't have to tell their story every time they come back in.
So the point is we're trying to get the word out that this assistance is available.
It's
right?
available and it's helpful, and it's making students more successful.
Do you feel like some students fall through the cracks in terms of not understanding all this is available to them?
I think it's still a work in progress. I think it's made leaps and bounds, but yeah, there's always room for more. I think the more we have this in place, as we talked about the application, and that's the single point of entry, we're also bringing on a more sophisticated technology piece that will help us automate more. And right now we're doing a lot of things that we're doing a little more manually. That's going to help a lot in being more they can be a little more specific about what their goals are and be directed the right way, a little more automated.
And I would say, you know, the important thing or the takeaway for any student is whenever you meet with someone, leave with next steps or leave with a plan. Mm-hmm. I said, because that plan is going to make sure that you're on track. And what we've really have worked hard is to be very intentional in identifying what the student educational goal is and what their program of study is, and making sure that they're on track for that goal. And sometimes we readjust as we need to go along, but I would just encourage every student, leave with next steps or leave with a plan.
Explain what next steps.
Well, you know, next steps, sometimes a student comes in and they've already completed the financial test, you know, 6 weeks ago, everything's looking good, but there's just one more verification that they need to do. And so there should be a next step is to go to X, Y, and Z to get whatever it is that you need to get, bring that back and turn it in. And What we do, we actually have a card that we prescribe. Here are the next things that you need to do to stay on track. And we give that to the students so that way they don't have to remember it, they don't have to guess.
That's pretty much for just getting started, though,
That's
right?
just getting
Yeah.
started. And then once they're enrolled, then we help develop an educational plan for the student. The educational plan is basically just going to outline the sequence of classes that they need to take, when they need to take them. And we can work with students where they can actually develop their own plan based on what's comfortable for them. It doesn't matter if you want to get done in 2 years or if your work life and home life allows you to go a little slower, and maybe it might take you 4 years or 6 years to get the degree done. But the important part is you develop the plan with the help of someone that's personalized for you.
If students happen to fall away or need, there's still next steps, because what they need to know is when they speak with someone and say, I'm going to have to take some time off, or then they would have next steps of when you're ready to come back, or you might hear from us in this amount of time, since you said you were coming back, and we'll get you going again. So it's always to know what to expect next. Many times they don't know, and we assume sometimes more than what they know.
So at what point in the process does a new student, do you think, need to have this career plan in place?
With those plans, students that are coming in, if they're getting registered face-to-face with an academic advisor, they're leaving at least with a plan for the next term, for the next quarter, if not the next 2. Eventually, at some point, once we've confirmed that this is the right program of study for you, this is the right career goal, then we want to go ahead and develop that plan out for the entire program, which may be 2 years for most students.
The earlier the better. Many don't know, so then they'd be prescribed more general education type courses and maybe dabbling in an intro to business class or an intro to trades class, depending on which route they wanted to go. And then as they're uncovering more of what their interests are, then they can get more towards a career. So that's until they have that achieved, that's really the goal, is to get what do you want to do with this? And let's make sure we're keeping you on the path.
I have something called SMART goals circled. Have we talked about that?
We really haven't, and I think the SMART goals just played into the more intentional approach we're taking. So it was setting measurable goals of what would be successful coming out of each area. So that's something we do internally, of how quickly we're processing files in financial aid to how quickly we're answering the phone at the contact center, just making sure that our services we hold to just as high a standard as a business that's not a school. So.
I would agree.
So what's next? I mean, in this process, as far as the college is concerned, I mean, is this a finished program?
It's
Or-
it's ongoing, and
dynamic?
it's evolving. James, we're lucky to have James in this newer role for him, because that's his strength, and also he understands the needs of the student. So as we continue to add, whether it's staffing a little differently, as James mentioned, or just focusing a little more on needs that maybe weren't being addressed, as well as integrating new technology, it's ongoing. Because as you know, with technology, it's constantly growing. So a year from now, there could be something available that will help this even more.
I mean, do you have a feel for what's imminent in terms of
We-
changes?
You know, there's in Ingrid's area, you know, when you talk about Recruiter, you know, that is basically a software tool that's designed for us to have a relationship with the student before they become a student. It allows them to schedule activities with us. It could be a campus tour and so on, but because of that, we can have a relationship with them until they're ready to commit. Once they commit, then that software brings their file, their records over into the system, and then it allows us to continue that relationship and share the new student that first quarter together. And so it's not this cold handoff from the enrollment specialist to the academic advisor, but it's this kind of this shared, you know, I guess you can say shared relationship as we make sure that the student is on the right path.
I think one other thing, and it's because it doesn't have a name yet, but it is something where a way we intend to go, is to have faculty more involved in early alerts. They're the front line of seeing all the students and noticing changes in behavior, or previously good students, now they're not doing so well. How can we intervene? And the faculty will be a big part of that. So I think without saying what technology piece that would be, that's definitely going to be something else we do that really is doing that early alert and intervention.
Sure. I have about a minute left. I wanted to throw it out to both of you. Anything you want to share that we haven't touched on? And we have a whole minute.
And we have a lot to talk about. So
Yeah.
I think in general, just students are much better positioned when they come into Metro or first contact us and continue into enrollment and into the student services piece of it than they've ever been before. So that's something we're proud of, and we want to make sure they look at us as an option for their education and that they'll be well served.
Yep. And I would say that, MCC was fortunate to be awarded a Title III grant, and so you're going to see some initiatives focused on the first year experience for students. So
Very
we're
good.
pretty excited about that once we get our director of advising hired.
Very good. And as James and Ingrid both said, the best place to get more information is online, mccnev.edu. Thanks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Ingrid, James, good to see you, and thanks again for being with us on Metro and More. Our goal is to better acquaint you with the mission, leadership, and the reach of the college. I'm Kent Pavelka for Metropolitan Community College. Did we cover? If you have comments or questions about the program, please email us at metrovision@mccneb.edu. Thanks for watching.
This has been a MetroVision production produced by Metropolitan Community College.